My first and only nuke in Modern Warfare 2 was with an F2000 red dot. And that is not fake, that is a real story. I'm a Hyperion, and this is Let's Argue. Let's Argue is where I open up my Twitter and take on your hot Halo takes, your crazy ideas, and your normal opinions. I tell you whether or not I agree or disagree and explain why. This week, instead of blatantly asking for hate on Twitter, I gave you guys a prompt. I asked you for your hot Halo takes regarding the weapon sandbox from the Halo franchise. One game, several games, all games. I guess you can't do no games. But you get the idea. I picked out a couple and we'll discuss them here today. And in the last Let's Argue, I mentioned that I'll be replacing the iconic Halo YouTubers Fallout poster with a poster composed entirely out of stickers that you guys select. If you want to select a sticker for the sticker poster, you can do so on my Ko-fi. Donate the money needed for the sticker, check the shipping costs, whatever it is, donate that, give me a link to the sticker, and I'll add it in. Thank you to everybody who's already donated for the sticker poster, who's gotten in there. You guys have picked out some cool stuff, some funny stuff so far, so I can't wait to get it on there. That's going to be cool. And also, if you want to know the origins of this iconic image that's probably popped up on the screen right next to me here, you need to follow me on Twitter and on my Instagram. There's a lot more context to the man behind the madness. For all of you drinking along at home, today's beer is a Dos Equis Amber Especial, which I had not had in a little while. I picked this case up the other day. I went to Walmart to buy alcohol. Mistake, by the way. Walmart doesn't carry shit. But they had this was the last case, and I was like, oh, why not? So it's good. If you're into a lot of beers have like an amber variant. And some of them can be really bad, but Dos Equis does it right. But I like Dos Equis. So, pop something open at home, water, apple juice, beer, motor oil, and let's kick this off. Ninjas Are Irish says, stop using what is the meta and use what you find fun. Getting kills with horrible weapons will be ultimately more skillful than killing someone with a BR. I disagree. When you start talking about meta, I feel like there's two things that drive meta. It kind of feels like this person is faulting or trying to make the player feel bad or feel less skilled for utilizing the meta, the most effective tactic available. Here's the one scenario that I think is the most common with metas in FPS games. There is an inherent imbalance in the weapon sandbox and in the weapon balancing that makes it so one weapon or a group of weapons is so much better than the rest of them, it functionally does not make sense for you to try to go against the grain and use inferior things. I don't think you can fault the player for that, and being kind of like indie cool hipster and like using the worst gun in the weapon category does not necessarily make you more skillful. If anything, it's making the game harder for you to like play and do well in. So, and this is coming from someone who like always did that, especially in COD. Like when the UMP was the meta in Modern Warfare 2, I'd never use the UMP. I would use stupid shit like the F2000. This is an Ascent Hyperion fact. My first and only nuke in Modern Warfare 2 was with an F2000 red dot. And that is not fake, that is a real story. And I've never been prouder. But it did not mean I was better at the game, it just meant I was doing it enough to get lucky and finally get a nuke with it. So I would have got the nuke a lot faster with a one-man army or a UMP, or we're talking a lot about COD in regards to Halo. Now, the other thing that drives meta is the natural need of the player to use the most effective tactic. The generalist player is going to do everything in their power to gain advantage, to gain edge over their opponents. And if in doing that, the meta exists such that I neglect like the AR in favor of the SMG consistently, again, that's not really my fault. That's just something on the gameplay design. Now, of course, there are several Halo titles where there is technically a meta, but the gap between the technical meta and anything else is so small. You can do that. I think Halo 4 is the best example of that. When you look at the 4 loadout precision weapons in Halo 4, have you ever noticed that, like, really, you could pick any of the 4 and you would do just as well off? They have quirks between them, and there are technical advantages between the 4, but at the end of the day, really, it's your choice, it's player choice. And I don't think any Halo game has come as close as Halo 4 did to having a meta-less experience. Even Halo Infinite, in its attempt to diversify the sandbox, still does so by imposing a different type of meta. But yeah, you know, so like I disagree with you in like a conceptual stance, but I agree that you guys should just use other guns because it's kind of fun. Tic Tac says, the Sidekick pistol and the AR in Halo Infinite are too strong as starting weapons in Halo, while scavenging the battlefield is supposed to bring strength. I disagree again, and I'll explain why. I don't think the AR or the Sidekick are too strong. I think they are extremely competent starting weapons. And if I were to take them and put them in a different modern Halo, Halo 4, Halo 5, even Halo Reach, you would see them function more with that trade up and trade out idea. And I talked about this in a different video when I discussed whether or not the battle rifle had ruined Halo 3. Trading up and trading out is an important part of the Halo gameplay experience. Now, I think what's happening in Infinite with the AR and Sidekick, it's not that they're strong, it's that in Infinite, because each weapon is kind of personified by its use, and not every weapon is meant to be useful all the time, you don't necessarily have to always trade up or trade out. I think you can confidently get rid of them when the moment is right, and when you can find the right tool for the right job, but often in the Infinite sandbox, you don't need to. Like, I don't always need a shock rifle. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to always pick up the Ravager. They are very situational. I'm not always going to pick up the Bulldog, you know? So, and it's not a detriment to me to do that. I can keep my AR, I can keep my Sidekick, and still perform confidently. So this might be one of those things where Infinite just has to be viewed through a different lens a little bit. In previous Halos, you were the most concerned about picking up more and more powerful things. In Infinite, you are the most concerned with picking up what is right for what's happening. And for whatever reason, when you're playing Infinite, what you need is not always what's placed on the map via the random weapon pad thing. So that's an interesting observation there, and I think that's a topic that could really be its own video. So it's not going to be, but it could be. It could be. Ryan says, prior to Infinite, the spike grenade was a useless plasma nade reskin. I agree. I am baffled each time with the existence of the spike grenade. I mean, it just seems so pointless. And this isn't even about like redundancy. I don't care that there's 2 sticky type grenades. I'm just asking the question, why does it exist? Like, even in its gimmick of like, oh, it shoots out spikes, it's pointless. In Halo 3, it does like nothing. It does like no damage that makes it, you know, you see a spike grenade in a room, I'm like, what the fuck ever, right? I don't care, I'll run right over it. Infinite, again, I mean, it makes the spike grenade stronger, but still, it's its main gimmick is not carrying it. It just does not feel like I should care. So that's just all bias and aggression from me. I don't give a shit about the spike grenade. I'm just confused as to how it keeps making it in. And I'm sure a couple of you will comment some stuff like, actually, the spike grenade, blah, 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 blah. All that is vacuum analysis. You know, you put the spike grenade in a vacuum, yeah, I'm sure it has a really distinct purpose and function and reason, and that's great. You put it in a full gameplay experience, not so much. So I agree, Ryan. Doomed Doomer says the Halo 4 binary rifle was epic. I agree. And the reason I included this one, even though it seems really simple, is because in some ways it is a hot take. And I included this one on here because as I scrolled through, I saw a different take about how Halo 4's Promethean weapons were some of the most unbalanced in the franchise. And this is a topic I'd love to discuss in a video. Halo 4's Promethean weapons were not unbalanced. They were very purposefully designed to be the pinnacle of the weapon class they were in. And I think that is one of the underappreciated or underevaluated design goals Halo 4 had, was to help convey how advanced Prometheans and the Forerunners was to take their weapons and make their weapons the best. I don't think that makes these weapons unbalanced. I think 343 achieved their goal, whether or not that goal was too short-sighted or too gimmicky. It's up for discussion. But yeah, all of them all, the Halo 4 binary rifle, I think having a weapon purposefully be the one-shot sniper, I don't think it's unreasonable. It's cool. And hey, man, when you saw that little laser sweeping by, the little vision of death, I mean, it gets your heart pumping. So I agree. The Halo 4 binary rifle was epic. And I didn't mind the Halo 5 one either. So good take there. Doomed Doomer. This next one has got to be one of my favorite to kind of roll through on Let's Argue thus far. Crisper Storm says, Halo 5's approach to the sandbox being every weapon feels viable is infinitely better than Infinite's approach of forcing weapons into very specific roles and several not meant to finish a kill at all. This is going to be the first ever inconclusive on Let's Argue. I don't know. What I really like about this is that it's a full acknowledgement that Halo 5 and Halo Infinite at a bones level are taking different approaches to creating high viability in the sandbox. And that's the key word here, is viability. This is something that past Halos struggled with greatly, and it was especially true for automatic weapons in the classic Halo games, even up through Halo Reach, and in many ways kind of bleeding into Halo 4. Now, the reason I'm inconclusive on this, because at the end of the day, I would have to agree to say that one approach is better than the other. Halo 5 goes the route of giving each weapon a base level of power, right? By saying this weapon can perform and will produce kills aggressively. Okay, so Halo 5 goes the approach of making sure no weapon is too weak and making sure each weapon is not capped out at being too strong. And that's, for a lot of people, was a negative. They didn't like so many weapons being aggressively viable. Now, Halo Infinite's approach to creating high viability is by niching out the weapons, and instead of having 20 or 30 in the pool, saying here are 12 that in the right situation will be extremely aggressive or will be extremely fruitful to use or will yield this or that. Okay, and there are pros and cons to both systems, and I just can't say one is better than the other yet. I think I need more time with Infinite to come to that conclusion. Coming off the back end of 7 years in Halo 5's lifespan, I feel very well acquainted with that sandbox experience. I understand what happened in that game very well and I can talk about it confidently. And with Infinite, I do feel like it's still in its infantile stages. It has time to change, it has time to grow, and I still have a lot of learning to do in it. So it'd be cool to revisit this one in a couple years and kind of finally decide for myself, yeah, one was better than the other. So, I'd like to hear you guys talk about this in the comments. Comment down below what you think. Did Halo 5's high damage approach work better, or is Halo Infinite's high functionality approach work better? And then, that's up to you. And just like that, that's another episode of Let's Argue in the books. What did you think? Leave your comments about the takes you saw below or my takes on the takes. Like I said, follow me on Twitter and on Instagram if you don't want to miss the next time I do a Let's Argue. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't, like the video if you liked it, leave a like if you disliked it, and until next time, I'll catch y'all later.